Hello, today we're going to start a flow of food activity. There are 3 different activities and they're all relatively short. Today you're only doing activity packet number 1 and you will need your worksheet with you. Now your teacher may give this to you as a Google document, so you will be going back and forth between typing and writing, or your teacher may give it to you as a printed document, which then you would just write as you went. Either way, when you're done, you will want to turn it into your instructor either through their means of handling the digital or handing in the paper. The main idea today is to talk about the actual flow chart of prepared foods. And in this case, we're going to talk about beef stew. So some ingredients: leftover prime rib. So let's say you serve prime rib at your restaurant, and so you have leftover, you may make beef stew. Vegetables, beef stock, and roux, which is made from flour and butter. So you order your ingredients. Now the prime rib you already had. So coming in on the truck are your vegetables, your beef stock, flour, and butter. So all of those need to come in on the semi at temperatures 41 degrees or lower, except the flour, which is dry, so that could be at room temperature. Assuming the vegetables are fresh, you do not want them they should be somewhere between 35 and 41. If you're buying frozen, then they're going to be closer to 0 degrees. But right now for this, we're going to assume more refrigerator temperatures. So once you receive that shipment, you as the restaurant manager or employee need to store it. And again, it needs to go right into the like temperature. So in this case, the vegetables, the beef stock, and the butter are going to go from a refrigerator semi to a refrigerator or walk-in refrigerator at your restaurant. And the flour again will be stored where you keep your dry ingredients. From there, if it's time to make your beef stew, you need to make sure your employees or yourself have washed their hands. Then you're going to saute the vegetables, add your prime rib, and add your beef stock. Once it starts heating up, you have what's called a critical control point, and that's what the CCP stands for on all 3 of those squares. Critical means dangerous. Control means you need to control it so it's not dangerous. So it's a point in the recipe where you must take critical care. Alright? And the reason for that is there's a temperature issue. So since we are reheating prime rib, all reheated foods must go to 165 degrees in order to kill any type of bacteria that may be on them. So here you need to, once it's boiling, you're going to add your roux, and your roux will be thickening it up. You'll learn more about roux later in the semester. Add your seasonings and continue cooking it until that stew hits 165 degrees. Now it must stay at 165 for 15 seconds. Now what that means is, and you'll learn this as you're using your thermometers, as food is getting hot, it might teeter between 163, 164, 163, 164. Then it might stay at 163 for a while. Then it'll finally jump to 164 and stay there. Then it'll teeter between 164 and 165. That is not hot enough. It has to be at the point where the thermometer is reading 165 or higher for at least 15 seconds. So it's not teetering in between those 2 temperatures. Okay? Once it's gotten up to that temperature, you can feel pretty safe that all harmful bacteria has been killed, and then you need to cool it. It has to be cooled before it goes into the refrigerator. If you put a big pot of beef stew in the refrigerator that's 165 degrees, your whole refrigerator is going to heat up, get steamy, and products like milk are going to spoil very, very fast. And they would spoil as the refrigerator is trying to cool down your beef stew. So the rule is you have to get that beef stew from 140 degrees all the way down to 70 within 2 hours. Now some of you are thinking, well, that shouldn't be hard, that should be easy. If it's a great big pot of beef stew, it's not easy. In fact, it could take many hours just at room temperature. Putting it in the refrigerator could take several hours. We only have 2. So what you can do is you can use an ice paddle, you can use an ice bath. Some restaurants have what's called a rapid cool. It's kind of like the reverse of a microwave. It gets foods very cold very fast. Okay, but we don't have that here, so we either do ice paddles or ice baths. Once it's hit 70 degrees, you have another 4 hours then to get it to 41. And at that point, at 70 degrees, it could go in the refrigerator. It's 70 degrees is room temperature. You could put it in the fridge. And again, if it's in a very large container, 4 hours is not going to do it. You're going to need to break it down into smaller containers. Then when you go to serve your beef stew, you'll need to reheat it to 165. And again, another critical control point because it has to get to 165 for 15 seconds or more. Then at that point, you may serve your beef stew, and the beef stew can cool down a little bit down to 140, but it has to stay at 140 or higher so that it is out of our danger zone. Next, you're going to go to a website, and I will click on it here so that you can look at it, and you are going to kind of look at some issues that can happen with purchasing and receiving food. Some things that can go wrong are contamination of food with bacteria, chemicals, or other non-food materials such as pests or physical items. And what you need to do is figure out what can you do about it, how can you check for it, and what if it's not right? What do you do? And you're going to write these responses in your own words. And another thing that can go wrong is food that is kept in the danger zone too long. And here it's in Celsius 5 to 60. In Illinois, the danger zone is 35 degrees to 140 degrees. But anyway, I'm going to go to this website and let you look at it. And you may want to pause this so that you have time to write your answers or type your answers on your sheet before you proceed to the next slide. So I'm going to click here, and we will open that up for you. Maybe. And this is not working, so we will try one more time. There we go. All right, so you may want to pause this here so that you can see, but I am going to try to enlarge this just a little bit for you so it's easier for you to see. Okay, so there's the two questions. You can read these and see how to reword these in your own words, and then fill in your chart. So go ahead and pause this until you have gotten that done. Now you're going to stay on that website, which I'll go back to it for you, and you're going to get some more information on purchasing and receiving food. And you need to summarize, which means reword them, make them a little shorter, the 6 tips for purchasing and receiving food. And again, you will write your responses on the worksheet. And when you are done with this part of the worksheet, you are done with activity 1, and you may turn in your worksheet to your instructor. And I will pull that up for you again. And I will go to page 2. And again, down here are all the tips. And so you can pause this presentation, reword those in your own words, and then you're done with this for today. Have a good one.